Do you want to know the fastest way to find out what the majority of students truly think about their teachers and their schooling? I've got a hint for you. Go to YouTube or Google and type in a phrase like, why do my teachers ... and then notice how the search engine actually finishes that sentence. The way the search engine makes choices is all based on how many people ask that exact question on the internet. It's the fastest way to find out. And what I noticed is that all of the options that popped up, this is crazy to me, but all of the options skewed super negative. Why would that be? And what can we do about that as teachers and educators? I've got some ideas, and we're going to talk through the three biggest themes that I saw in the search engines and what I think the next step is for all of us to do to try and combat this wave of negativity that so many students feel about their own schooling. Let's dive in. All right, so in a moment, I'm going to share with you the three whiteboards that I made as a response to the three most common negative themes that students typed into Google. First, though, I want to give us a guiding question because this is something I'm super passionate about. How can we together as educators create a culture where both students and educators feel seen? Because I know educators don't feel seen. Like, they don't hate their students the way students experience them hating their students, right? So you don't feel seen and students don't feel seen. And how can we all understand our role in the learning process as active participants, right? This is the question that I'm constantly experimenting around and constantly trying to figure out. How can educators work with students around this question? How can students work with themselves around this question? And so we're going to explore this through the lens of the three most common negative statements that students seem to say. So the first one here is, why do my teachers ignore me? Another common one was, why do my teachers hate me? Sometimes I just need to slow down and take this in. How many students are out there feeling ignored, maybe even hated? It's really sobering. And I know a classroom teacher's job is so huge, and I know you don't have time sometimes to individually see all your students and then take action to help them know that they've been seen. I also know that teenagers tend to, the science shows this, magnify negative emotion. So if they just see a neutral emotion, they might interpret that as hate, or they might interpret it as disdain when it's just a neutral face. So I know that there are lots of factors that go into this, but regardless, we can't change teenagers' habit of doing that. It's biologically built into their brain. So we are the ones that might need to find a way to shift a little bit. So what can we do to help students feel seen so that they don't just feel like they're blending into the background? Teachers, a simple thing you can do is just make sure that you're calling on more specific students, that they're hearing you say their name. During group work, maybe you say their name by walking around the classroom, making a little comment, showing that you see something, checking in with them when you know they're having a bad day. Again, I know it's hard when you have 150 students every day to do this, but even once a week, once every other week, can every student be touched in some way that helps them feel seen and noticed, and not just negatively, right? But deeply seen and noticed for who they are beyond the grades. Now, coaches, for those of us who work one-on-one with students, how can we with students explore self-advocacy? So it's our role to tease out if the student has a belief that a teacher's ignoring them or hating them, to give the student a safe place to hear that, or to have that be heard, and then to explore, well, what's your role in that? We can't change the teacher right now, but we can change you. And it might even be that your perception is different than the teacher's perception. So what are some small little self-advocacy habits that we can put into place? One of them includes going to a teacher's office hours, staying after class, maybe even just raising your hand in class if you're not used to doing that. But if that's too much, finding times to engage with your teacher one-on-one. Many students don't think of this sort of thing themselves, and a coach can help slowly nudge them in that direction. Okay, what's one of the second biggest themes that was typed? I think this one was typed into YouTube. Why do my teachers make tests so hard? Again, I understand where students are coming from with this. They're experiencing the difficulty of learning. Learning is one of the more vulnerable things we can actually do in this world. To be somebody who's a novice and to try and build our skills, it's actually really difficult. It brings up a lot of emotions that actually students aren't always equipped to handle because they're young. They haven't been taught about how to emotionally regulate themselves. And so tests, even the ones that aren't always that hard, feel really hard to many students. And actually, from my point of view, as somebody who is obsessed with the science of learning, I think this one's actually an easy one for us to work around. There hasn't been enough transparent retrieval practice in class. Now, what do I mean by this? Retrieval practice is the act of testing in small little bursts to see what students actually know. There are lots of ways to practice retrieval before you ever get to the quiz or the test. And actually, I would love to send you to gretchenwagner.com/study. That is where you'll find out a breakdown of my study cycle and a breakdown of actions that you actually can include in class if you're an educator, or in your coaching sessions. I mean, if you're a teacher, and in your coaching sessions, if you're a coach or a tutor, where you can do retrieval practice with your students and clients. But notice I put the word transparent in here. One of the it's not a bad habit, but it's not an ideal habit that teachers have when they go and do professional development is they get excited about some new thing and then they do it to their students and they see some success with that. But what they don't do is name students. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. What are you noticing about the impact of this new teaching strategy or this new classroom routine or classroom habit? And helping students see it, feel the value of it, recognize the value of it in their system, and then learn how to actually use it on themselves when they're at home studying. And retrieval practice is one of these things that students can easily do for themselves if they understand it and if they know how to do it. So it's a really easy to provide little testing opportunities and then stop students and say, hey, guess what we're doing right now? Where are we on the study cycle? Yeah, this is a little retrieval moment. I'm not trying to catch you. I'm simply trying to help you see what you know and what you don't know. It's not going to be graded. Let's see, and then let's figure out how to improve your learning based on what you do and don't know. You can have lots of those little transparent moments in class if you learn and practice how to do that. So I think that's what I said here. Educators provide many moments of mini low stakes testing and ask students to notice how it helped. This is such a simple new habit to integrate into classrooms, but it does take a little time to see all the potential opportunities for weaving in transparency and metacognition into your teaching. Okay, I have one more that I want to share with you. That was the most commonly entered gripe that students have about teachers. Before I get to that, I just want to ask you to please, if you're moved, like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out so much. It helps me to get to more educators and also more students. So I really appreciate you. The fourth one, where is it? I have my little table over here with all of my whiteboards. Okay. Why do my teachers give me so much homework? Homework's a tricky one, right? There's a lot of data out there that shows that a lot of homework doesn't necessarily help students learn better, but it's just so hard. There's such limited time in schools. It's hard to actually put that science into practice in the classrooms because we have this belief that we're behind and the students need to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm not going to argue yes homework or no homework. Instead, I'm going to point out that for most students, homework doesn't feel purposeful. I can't tell you how many students have said, oh, that's just busy work. My teacher assigns so much busy work. And I, as the coach, I look at the assignment and I'm like, well, it seems like it's more than busy work, because if it's just busy work, the teacher could have asked you to do a crossword puzzle that's from the New York Times. They could have asked you to do random things, but this looks like it's related to the content your teacher's trying to teach. So let's look at it and see if we can figure out the purpose behind the assignment, so at least you understand how to use it to foster your learning. That's the kind of conversation that I have a lot with students. So we look at it ourselves and we create a purpose, or I have the student go in and ask the teacher what the purpose is. But regardless, teachers, I think there are some teeny little ways in class that you all can make the learning purpose more explicit for students, or even ask them to reflect on what they think the learning purpose is. And the way to do that is to make sure that at the beginning of every semester, you teach students what I call the study cycle. It's a shortened version of all of the goodness we've learned from neuroscience and the science of learning into 3 simple steps that students understand and they remember when you teach it a certain way that I have learned to teach students. And all the people I've trained say, oh my God, that is so efficient and so effective. Teach that at the beginning of the school year. And then follow it up every day. Here's the homework assignment. Take a look at the homework assignment. What do you notice the objective is? Where on the study cycle might we be when you fill out this homework assignment? How can you take more responsibility for ensuring that you're using the homework as retrieval practice or as an encoding practice? If you don't know what these terminologies mean, please head to gretchenwagner.com/study. It really is a free gift that I have for you that outlines a study cycle, outlines how to teach it, outlines some very specific actionable strategies that teachers and students can use to enact retrieval practice or enact encoding practice in their classroom. So I intend for it to be super useful and to help guide you as we all try and figure out how can we work together to create a culture where students and educators feel seen and understood for their role in the learning process? And I think too many educators see their role as simply giving students the information about the content that they're supposed to teach, and they don't see that actually a more important role is to teach them to be conscious of their own learning and to give them an overflowing toolbox for how they can become active learners on their own right, regardless of how a teacher teaches. I so hope you'll share some of your thoughts below and also check out that free gift I have for you. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, y'all.